Hello and welcome to another installation of Works Plus Opera. We're going to talk lots of good stuff today. It's Juicy Mike. Why don't you give us something juicy this morning? What are we talking about today?
Juicy Mike, is that my DJ name or something, is it? Juicy Mike? I thought we'll talk about flatness today, guys. The importance of flatness, looking at it from a few different aspects. Very important part of setting yourself up and getting the job right, setting out some parameters and things like that. So let's have a good chat about that one, guys, see what we all think.
All right, so today's subject is debunking the flat earth theory. You know, the theory how concrete grinders turn up and they think, hey, you know what? All concrete should be flat because I'm here. I mean, I can imagine a concrete grinder leaves the industry and goes into excavating and gets upset because the earth that he's just gone to do a site cut on isn't flat. So, you know, I hear about this all the time. How flat should the concrete be before I start? What obligation does the builder of concrete have to making it flat? And how much should I be charging? Are they paying enough for it to be flat? That's pretty much the subject of it. And also, technically, how do we grind a floor flat and quote for that?
That's a good subject. I like that.
Well, I think every concrete slab should be flat. I'm a flat earther. Flat slabber. Flat slab theory.
Absolutely. And not having a flat substrate, it's just eating into your bottom line if you haven't allowed for it. If you're like, yep, I'll just rock up with my grinder, all of a sudden it's not going how you imagined. So get that straight edge out and figure out how much work you need to do to make the earth flat.
That's right. Mike, what do you reckon, man? Should all concrete be flat when we arrive?
In theory, probably. That could also be the reason you're there. It's because it's not. But yeah, I mean, I've always been told by Works Plus and by all of my customers that the first cut especially, but the importance of getting it flat because it's just going to set you up for whatever you're trying to achieve. A flat floor is going to help you get there.
So it's actually important to make the floor flat.
To make the floor flat, absolutely. Which implies that it probably isn't flat when you're going to get there. Not necessarily. And then I'll throw a spanner in the works and say, yeah, got to get the floor flat, surface polish.
Well, the interesting thing is what I've learned especially the last 6 months, talking to more and more concreters, because a lot of concreters are in the industry that developed their business from installing concrete to actually now polishing. And the constant feedback is it is really, really hard to sometimes work with concrete to actually get it flat. It goes off like a bomb, you know? The difficulty that a lot of concreters have is the actual materials, like the stuff they put in there. It sometimes can be really hard because it's just, you have to be super, super efficient and fast to get that project or get that floor nice level before it goes hard. And
flat.
I think, flat. And there's a lot of difficulty with that from what I've heard. And so as much as people always like to point the fingers at concreters and stuff like that, you have to understand what they're kind of working with as well. And like being out and about, seeing a lot of projects lately as well on the road, I think it's also about how do you sell a floor that is absolutely wavy? Yeah, like Milan already mentioned, we have these straight edges. We lay out the floor. We can see there's humps, bumps, lumps, and how are we going to leave that? Like, what are the expectations? We have a customer that wants a flat floor, but it's wavy. That means if you're taking that top crust off, it's not going to be surface polish anymore. So how do we sell this? How do we iterate that back to, or how do we relay that information back to the customer and set the expectation right and give them great information? Or do we go back and say the concrete is fault? We charge back, the builder needs to work this out with the concreter.
Do it again.
Come on, Josh. You've been in the industry for so long. You've seen some interesting...
I think there's a few things here, right? Of course, like you said, Daniel, we can often get caught up in being on site and pointing the finger at everyone, all right? There are a few things that we have to accept as concrete polishers. And I think that one of the first things that we need to accept is that all concrete is not flat before we start. That has to be the understood expectation. There is, of course, everyone needs to make a decision as to what they think the tolerance should be. in order for them to be able to deliver a set price on a project. Say, for instance, if I said, look, I'm happy for all of my projects to be 5 to 6 mil out of tolerance on the projects that I go to, because that's included in my price. I'm happy with that, taking off that much material on every job that I do. That's what I'm comfortable giving to my customer straight off the bat. Anything worse than that, then I will have to charge additional for, and that's why I would be going to every job that I quote with a straight edge to determine what's the state of the floor before commencing. That would be my perspective on this. And going back to that point where we're all standing around pointing the finger at people, we also need to have this expectation that every trade on the job is actually trying to do their very best every day. Okay, it's not just the concrete grinder and polisher who's doing the best job, showing up and doing their best. Placing and finishing concrete is a tough job, and like you said before, Daniel, you got a whole lot of things in there. A lot of variables from a concreter's perspective, the timing, the conditions, the materials, and they've got to make it all happen on the day when it turns up. And these are things that are not in their control in most cases, and they've got to deliver the best product that they can with what they've got. And so I agree, there's a lot of concrete contractors out there that could possibly do a better job than what they're doing. A lot of these guys that could be at the point where they're going, okay, we've been doing slabs for the last 15, 20 years, and only now are people starting to request much flatter finishes. Well, guess what? That's going to take some learning. It's going to take some learning from the builder who needs to stipulate this in the contract with the concreter, so the concreter actually knows what's expected. And the concreters are going to have to work towards that, because this has never been something they've had to work towards, because no one's ever thrown a straight edge over their work. I think there's a lag, in just the expectation and the education with the concreters, and there's also got to be very, very good communication around the whole project from everyone who's involved in it in the first place. And often contractors are being engaged, concrete grinding contractors are being engaged once the slab is already in place. So you cannot simply turn up and expect it to be flat just because you're turning up. I think there needs to be an expectation that if I'm quoting a project, I'm comfortable with removing 5 to 6 mil off of every project in my first pass. But before we submit that quote, throw the straight edge over the project so you know how your floor measures up before we get started.
If we keep talking, we'll be all right. Because at first you said 4 to 5 mil, now it's 5 to 6 mil. By the end of the video, it'll be 8 to 10 mil, and we'll be gold.
8 to 10 feet.
8 to 10 feet. Absolutely, just come in with a samurai sword and just. I think you've got to be a bit careful with exactly who your customer is, as well as to who you might be pointing the finger at as well. Especially if the customer is a builder and it's repeat business and that sort of thing. There you need to tread a bit lightly as well, which I know is the case quite often. When I say tread lightly, it's very easy to tread lightly when it's black and white as to what your expectations are. So yeah, absolutely.
It's also understanding, let's say the tolerance 3 mil over 3 meters. As part of the quoting, to protect your bottom line, you need to understand how much work is required before actual work. So being prepared when going out to see these jobs could make all the difference to your bottom line. If you're just turning up and agreeing to sight unseen, or even seeing the site but haven't put a straight edge to it, there's a lot of guesswork there. So try and eliminate all the guesswork. Will help your bottom line.
I prefer to turn up and have a whinge. That's my vent session. It's my relief valve. If this floor's not flat when I get there.
As long as you don't mind venting while you're grinding 10 mil off.
I thought at Works Plus is all about total solutions. Are we supposed to bring the solutions to the problem? So my question, like Milan just mentioned, we have a bottom line to protect. And if you're now spending 2 extra days on site to flattening out the floor before we actually can start grinding and polishing properly, that's got a cost attached to it. So I guess it comes down to, like Milan already mentioned, you get that straight edge out, you mark out the areas that are problem areas, because do we want to sell a flat floor? Do we want to sell a wavy floor? What are we selling here? So we need to firstly give that understanding to the customers. And the interesting thing is as well, there's so many contractors that just like, oh yeah, that's part of my service. No, it's not, because that is it. Well, yes and no. And the way I look at it is, as a professional contractor out there, you got to see your worth in what you're doing, and you know what, you're there to show them what you're capable of, show them where the problem areas are, because the other guy is probably not even doing that, who's sporting against you. So by actually pointing out these problem areas, then you can visually actually see that. That's just many plus points from a sales point of view as well.
Well, absolutely. If I was a customer and someone actually turned up for my project and showed me all of the problems that I actually had with my substrate and told me how they were going to fix them, I'd feel a lot more comfortable with that than someone who turned up and just gave me a blanket price. And I didn't know if they were actually going to fix those things, because when they came to have a look, they didn't seem to identify all of these issues that were ahead of them.
Oh, exactly. Because if you just overpromise saying, hey, I'm going to get this great floor, it may look shiny, it may have full exposure stone, but it's not flat. It's going to have all these...
I like what you did there. I like that. I like what you did there. Expose. That's exposed stones. Expose.
Expose, yeah. That's a new word.
Credit a new word. Nice.
I definitely agree with you. Definitely, I agree with all of you guys.
We've been talking about getting it flat. What if you push through and you do your normal process and the floor isn't flat? What sort of issues can you end up with, guys?
Anytime I do my normal process, the floor is not going to come out flat, Mike.
Start using full sets, man. Full sets all the way.
Very reassuring, Josh.
Mike, that's a very good question, and it comes back down to we've talked in the past about getting your process right at the start of the job. Okay, that's all about preparation and setting yourself up for success. Whack out that sample and make sure that your process is going to work and that your client is happy and you're happy with the outcome. The same thing goes for setting yourself up for success when it comes to flatness. That straight edge. Right? If you're not checking the floor and identifying the highs and lows in it, well, it's probably not going to come out flat. And you need to do this during at least the first cut stage in your process to ensure that the floor is actually coming out to your tolerances, to ensure that it's going to be flat and have a nice sharp reflection line at the end. You really need to monitor the floor all the way through, not just wait to the end and go, bummer.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that you'll do your 30 cut, let's say, without really realizing if the floor is flat or not, or you haven't taken out the high spots. You get up to the grouting stage and all of a sudden you're leaving all these spots behind, lines behind. You're like, what's going on? So now I've got to go back again. So the time that I've just spent is literally spent. You're going to have to go again. So being set up from the start and getting it within tolerance, it's just about setting it up from the beginning till the end. Yep. So you're not going back, because going back is more expensive to your business or more costly to your business than it is taking time to mark out some high spots and then hitting those first.
Correct.
And we all just want to get that machine on the ground and start cutting. I know. I don't want to mark it out. I just want to grind.
Got to do it. Awesome topic, guys. And remember, setting up from the start is going to make your job go a lot faster, and also it's going to protect your bottom line. So task for everybody this weekend or Friday afternoon, buy a straight edge. It's going to save your life. So get out there, guys. And until next week, I think it's time to crack a beer open, right?
Yeah, I'm heading down to Bunnings to buy a 6-pack of beer and a straight edge. Good combo, I reckon. I
don't think Bunnings will sell you the 6-pack, but
I was interested to see how good the straight edge is after you've drunk 6 beers. But anyway,
the problem is Josh actually doesn't have to buy the 6-packs. It's actually attached to him.
Keep it well hidden.
That's it.
Righto, guys.
Have a good weekend.
Alrighty. Hey, you boys have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Have a wonderful weekend.